depending on the layer and also in the location. Okay? This one. This is a magnified picture of the epithelial cells sa surface of a Chinook salmon. So as you can see here, the microridge or the micropapillae on exterior surface of a teleosed superficial epithelial cells. So this kind of features in the exterior surface help to hold mucus secretion on the skin surfaces. Okay? It can also provide mechanical trauma, mechanical protection against trauma. Okay? Mechanical protection. In addition to mechanical protection, the epithelial cells, itong mga ridges na to, also increases the absorptive surface area of the skin. Absorptive area of the skin. Okay? Next, the mucous cuticle. A mucous cuticle is produced largely by the epithelial cells. Okay, yun. Which form a protective cuticle on the skin surfaces. Okay? Mucous secretion. So this mucous secretion form a layer. Okay? So this surface epithelial cell secretion in cuticle mixed with and modified by secretion from other secretory cell types. Of course, similar to generally ang epithelial cells, it provide protection against stress, damage, mechanical damage. Okay? So, by looking at in a prepared histological preparation of the surface epithelial cells, it is clearly seen using a stain mixed with a glutaraldehyde Asian blue, okay, which is a very good preservative of cuticle. Kasi in cuticle, it is easily dissolved in acid. Okay? So yeah. So cuticle is continuously slapped off and renewed to help keep the surface clear of debris and bacteria. So aside from mechanical damage, it also acts as a barrier by slapping off when its surface impregnated with debris and bacteria. So the thickness varies from less than 1 to 50 micron by species and area on the body, and may be affected by other factors such as the environment. Okay? So yeah. So unicellular exocrine gland common to most animal group. This is reported in most fishes, including yung mga hagfishes. Yes, the jawless. Okay? Mga cetaceans. The sharks, the skates, and the rays. Relic, bony fishes. The dipnoans, yung lungfishes, yung lungfish. The polyptiformes. Okay? Ito yung group of fish na primitive. Okay? They are not that highly adapted to the environment, unlike the teleost. Okay? Yan. Most teleost. Okay? Then we have this mucous goblet cell. So these goblet cells reported absent from jawless fishes, such as the lampreys, bony fishes, yung polydon, yung paddlefish, teleost fish. Ito, sa mudskipper, Periophthalmos species. Okay? So yan. This is recognizable in a middle to outer layer of the epidermis. Okay? It is maybe differentiate from the epithelial cells in the lower epidermis. So the mucous goblet cell is a result of specialization or differentiation of epithelial cells found at the lower epidermis. Okay? So goblet cells may enlarge as move towards the epidermal surface, and numbers of secretory vesicles increases. So these secretory vesicles is responsible for the synthesis of mucus. Okay? So yan. So the nucleus and organelles often become displaced basally. Okay? So the secretion is composed mainly of glycoprotein. And the other components, depending on species, most weakly basophilic or unstained, seen in a routine histological section. Okay? So yan. How about the club cell? Club cell is a secretory cell characteristic of a certain taxa of ray-fin actinopterygian fishes. Actinopterygian fishes, ito yung mga karamihan dito ay mga freshwater. Okay? And yung mga primitive fishes. Okay, ito. Polypteriformes. Relic bony fishes. Eels. Okay, that belong to the family of Anguillidae. Then yung mga fishes of the superorder Ostariophysi. These Ostariophysians, etong superorder na to are mostly freshwater fishes. Freshwater. Okay, ito. The superorder contains nearly 25% of all known fish species and 75% of all freshwater fishes. Okay? So if you look at the club cell, it is usually large. Okay? So ito, so makikita nyo, this one. So it is usually large and round to oval or club shape with 1 to 2 centrally located nuclei with a prominent nucleus. Okay? Multinucleated. So generally in the middle layer of the epidermis, no opening to epidermal surface. So in eels, have a cytoplasmic secretory vacuoles. So Stariophysians club cells do not contain do not contain secretory vacuoles. Okay? Okay. Now, ano itong tinatawag natin na Ostariophysan club cells? Ang Ostariophysan club cells, sabi ko kanina, the integument act as a receptor. The primary role of Ostariophysan club cells, it acts as an alarm. Okay? Yan. It contains an alarm pheromone that is released into the water when the epidermis is damaged. This alarm pheromone, it acts as a signal to other cells to other individual of the same species in the vicinity. Garo baga siya kung sa concept baga ng virology, ang alarm pheromone is homologous to interferon. Na kung saan ang interferon is released when a damaged cell due to viral infection, that interferon cause the nearby cell to change its surface, preventing the docking of the virus. Same with the alarm pheromone. This alarm pheromone detected by other fish of the same species, which perform a specific anti-predatory defensive behavior. Okay? So yan. So these club cells in Stariophysan may be lost during spawning season in species with abrasive spawning behavior. ito yung uh, mga behavior of fish na nagkikiskisan yung body nila during spawning season. Okay? So club cell products may have an additional functions. Okay? May have an additional function that remains to be studied. Yan. How about the ill-type club cells? So ill and polypterid club cells do not appear to be involved in alarm reaction. So bioactive substance identified Okay. So let me continue. Malinaw pa ba yung audio ko? Dahil mo na ako na cut.
Yes po, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So yan. So bioactive substance identified in club cells suggest other function in stereophysans and non-stereophysans. And these are function as a toxin. Okay? Anti-pathogenic agents. Specific factors that may be involved in epidermal cell regulation. Okay? So, yan. So, what are the other epidermal cells? We have the serous cells, which is basically located, basally located sa nucleus and acidophilic staining in the cytoplasm. So, makikita nyo yung serous cells. Okay? So, there are two types, which is the serous goblet cells. The other one is the saciform cells, which may only be distinguished in the electron microscope. Okay? So the serous goblet cells are reported from in some bony fish taxa. Okay? So yan. Usually less numerous than mucous goblet cells in species that have them. Okay? So vesicles containing basic proteins. And this increased number of serous goblet cells is often associated with the skin irritation. Okay, saciform cells. Most mature cells open at the skin surface by an apical pore. Okay? These are present in Gadiformes. And these appear as a cyst-like structure. Okay? Cyst-like. So, the possible function is as a toxic substance or a repellent. Okay? Since proteinaceous in nature, it also functions as a regulatory peptide, a regulatory protein. Okay? So these are reported to be present in some cartilaginous and bony fish taxa. Yan. Other epidermal cells. We have the ionocytes. Okay? Monovalent ion regulation. So we have epithelial sensory organ and supporting cells. The solitary sensory cells. Example of these are a neuromast, okay? A mechanoreceptor or electroreceptor. An electroreceptor is a receptor found in the surface of stereophysaన్స్ like a goldfish, okay, that they can detect movement in water, because movement involve electrical signal generated by impulses. So muscle contraction involve electrical signals. And these electrical signals can be detected by the neuromast. Okay? Taste bud, chemoreceptors. Okay? Paraneuronal cells or the Merkel cells. It is a receptosensory cells that release signal substance. Okay? Yeah, what else? A luminescent organ, photophores. Ang mga luminescent organs contains a self-luminous cells. Or, ito yung mga tinatawag natin na luciferin. Okay? Bioluminescent. But in some fishes, they form a symbiotic relationship with a luminous bacteria so that they appear luminescent. It flourish. Okay? Venom cells and supporting cells. So, it contains venom glands, which is often associated with spines. So itong spine na to is responsible for the delivery of the venom cells. Yung nasikrit itong venom cells. Okay? So we have the leukocytes. Okay? So the leukocytes increase abundance during healing of the skin injury, exposure to infectious agent or other stressor. So the most common leukocytes are the lymphocytes. Most common. Although macrophages and granulocytes are also observed. Pero the most common is the lymphocytes. Dendritic cells. Okay? So the dendritic cells act as an antigen presenting cells. Okay? Then we have the radlet cells, meneteliost. So anong function nitong radlet cells? It is a pear-shaped fibrillar capsule beneath the plasma membrane. Acidophilic radlets oriented longitudinally within the membrane-bound cytoplasmic vesicles. Often more numerous in fish exposed to damage by parasites or other insults. It is a defensive function. Okay? It may have a defensive function. Okay? Yung radlet cells. Thread cell. This is a secretory cell in hagfish. It is an elongated oval cell with basal nucleus. The dense thread-like component is peripheral portion of the cell. Central mass containing fine granules or globule. It is produced by other cells combined to form a copious slime discharge by irritated hagfish. Ito yung tinatawag na slime layer. Once they are irritated, they secrete mucus. Okay? Granular cell. The function is unknown. This is located in the middle to upper layer of epidermis. Okay? It is a large cell with centrally located nucleus with a prominent nucleolus. Okay. Skein cell. It provides mechanical support to the epidermis sa lamprey. So it is an elongated cell with basal part containing basement membrane which extend into the upper epidermal layer. Okay? It is often by nuclei. Okay, the dermis. So the relative thickness of the stratum spongiosum and stratum compactum depends largely on the presence or absence of the scale. So the separation between the dermal layers may be indistinct in non-scaled areas. So in lampreys and some primitive actinopterygians, the dermis consists primarily of dense connective tissue. Okay? In lampreys and some primitive actinopterygians, the dermis consists primarily of a dense connective tissue. So kung titingnan nyo, this is the skin of Pacific lamprey, Lampetra tridentata. The dermis is made up of a dense connective tissue. Okay? So yan. So the stratum spongiosum is contiguous with basement membrane. Many of its finer fibers is inserted in the basement membrane ng dermal element. So the scales of a variety of vascular and neural elements. So this layer contains the scale and a variety of vascular and neural elements. So what are these cellular elements? The fibroblast, the pigment cell, the leukocytes, cells of scale synthesizing tissue. Okay. The stratum compactum. Collagen bundle which form a dense matrix above the hypodermis. So always present from an early stage in ontogeny. So the stratum compactum is present from an early stage in ontogeny. So, ano ang major component of the stratum compactum? Of course, the collagen bundle, which form a dense matrix above the hypodermis. Okay? Dense collagen bundle that appears to be a dense matrix. So collagen fibers usually highly ordered in a series of layers at a right angle to each other. It also contains dermal fibroblast. So the dermal fibroblast is distributed between the collagen fibers. Another thing about the stratum compactum, it is pierced at a regular interval by a vertical column of collagen-bearing nerves and blood vessels hanggang dun sa stratum spongiosum. Okay? So yan. Hypodermis. The hypodermis separates the dermis from the underlying skeletal muscle. Ang upper portion ng hypodermis generally contains chromatophores or the pigment cells, blood vessel, and of course, nerve bundles. Under the hypodermis, or beneath the hypodermis, are adipose cells, which is a loose connective tissue. Okay? So kung titingnan nyo, yan. Okay? Now let's talk about the specialized dermal cell or dermal elements. Yeah. So the integumentary colors and their patterns of arrangement. The integumentary colors primarily dependent on the presence of the pigment cell or the chromatophores. Ito. These are the pigment cell. Yan, sa layer na yan. Yan na parang gold. Okay? Those are the chromatophores, the pigment cells. Their patterns and arrangement gives the fish a distinct color pattern. So the chromatophores of fishes occur in the dermis or both in the dermis and in hypodermis. Sa in stratum spongiosum of non-scaled skin, the chromatophores is located in the upper portion in a non-scaled. Okay? While in scaled skin, chromatophores is located both above and beneath the scales. Above and beneath the scales. Okay? So yan. Ito, the chromatophores. Melanophore in the fin of a smooth dogfish shark. So most of these chromatophores are dendritic. Pag sinabi nating dendritic, it is multiple branch. Okay? Branching. So melanophores are the most common dendritic chromatophores in fishes. It occurs almost everywhere in the skin where there is a sign of dark shade that can easily be recognized. Dark shade. Usually, largest dendritic chromatophore the size range about 200 micrometer in size. Okay? Dito mga chromatophores. It may appear uninucleate or binucleate. Okay? Meron naman tayong tinatawag na chromatosomes. Okay? Chromatosomes or pigment granules. So this chromatosomes contains a pigment known as melanoprotein. So yung dark brown and black coloration makes melanophores readily visible in a routine histological section. Melanophore, dark pigment. Okay? So this one. So if you look at this, the erythrophore, it is a chromatophore that gives red pigment. Okay? The erythrophore, red or yellowish. The xanthophore, yellowish in color. While the leucophore, the white or light reflective color. So these are the pigments sa mga arowanas. Okay? Cyanophore, blue. While the iridophore, these are non-dendritic, light reflective chromatophores. Okay? Ito yung common sa mga silvery color ng fish. This contains, ang iridophore contain large crystalline platelets that tend to form a stalk in the cytoplasm. Okay? Ayan. Ito. The chromatophores. If you look at this picture, it shows the pigment dispersion. Pigment dispersion response and pigment aggregation response of chromatosomes in a dendritic chromatophores. So kung makikita nyo, the coloration pattern, the color and the pattern is a response. Rapid change in the hue and pattern of coloration is primarily controlled by the nervous and the endocrine system. Okay? So yan. So ang melanophores often play a leading role in rapid color changes. It usually shows highest degree of rapid aggregation and dispersion of a chromatosomes. Okay? Yan. So next. The scales. So scales differ from those of other vertebrates. Scales of other vertebrates consist of largely keratinized epidermal tissue, which is ectodermal in origin. While in fish scales, these are mineralized dermal structure of mesenchymal origin. Okay? Yeah. So these are the types of scales. Scales are important component of dermal skeleton of fishes. So if you look at the scales, it evolved independently in cartilaginous and bony fishes. Okay? So yan. So if you look at the yung placoid, okay? Spiny, tooth-like. Okay? The ganoid, okay? The elasmoid, bony ridge, the cycloid, and the ctenoid. Okay? So yan. So in class chondriches, these are cartilaginous fishes like the sharks, the rays. Okay? Their skin contains placoid scale. The placoid scale is masyado siyang maliit. It is similar in structure to teeth. The skin of a chondriches, yung placoid scale niya, pag hinawakan nyo yung sino na ba dito yung naka-experience na i-rub yung skin ng shark. Kung may nakita kayo sa market o kaya bumili kayo ng mga taga Sorsogon, common doon yung although bawal na, yung pasa-pasa. Pasa-pasa is a viand na galing siya sa yung meat niya ay shark meat o kaya yung sa pagi, yung ray. So yung black nun, yung skin nila, pag nirub mo siya, garo siya sandpaper. But if you look at closely, kung magkuha ka mo kay magnifying glass, so makikita nyo ng structure niya contains a minute scale. Ito nga yung placoid. Okay? Dentin-like core surrounded by enamel-like covering. Okay? So yan. So the placoid scale, fin tissue of adult female smooth dogfish shark, showing a placoid scales beneath the epidermis. Okay? So yan. Placoid scale. So some placoid scale may be completely covered by epidermis. So the epidermis may be damaged during sampling, wherein the placoid scale are usually non-overlapping. Unlike to the other types of scale that are overlapping, ang placoid scale ay hindi. Except where they protect the lateral line canal. Nagkakaroon lang ng overlapping ang placoid scale doon sa areas that protect the lateral line canal. Okay? Doon lang nagkakaroon ng overlapping. placoid scale sa chondriches. Okay? Ito. Skin of most bony fishes is covered with mucous gland and embedded dermal scale. Yan. So kung makikita nyo, overlapping yung tenoid and ganoid. Okay? So yan. Okay? So in class of stitches, ganoid or rhomboid scale, it is sometimes known as ganoid. It is heavy, diamond shape, non-overlapping. Okay? Non-overlapping. It is a present siya sa primitive fish like the gars. Yung may mahabang snout. Garfish. Kagaya ng ano yan, yung ano yan, locally tinatawag siyang bugiw. Yung sa English niya half-beak. Okay? Magkakapamilya yan ng gars. Okay? Yan. So in class of stitches, cycloid scales, roughly circular. It is thin, flexible, overlapping. So modern bony fishes such as minnows, suckers, trout. Ang trout yung similar to grouper, yung color red, yung coral trout. So yan. Tenoid. With minute tennae or teeth roughly rectangular. Okay? Yan. Yan yung mga tutulis na yan. Yung garo, ano yun yung tinapay. Gutom na ako, yung naisip ko.
Empanada.
Basta yun na ito. Yung may meat sa loob. Anyway, so yun. Yan. Tama si Mr. Borabot. Empanada. Okay? So it is thin-like, flexible, and it is overlapping. Okay? Modern bony fishes such as sunfishes and perches o stitches. Okay? So yan. So fish growth is reflected in the scale growth. Okay? Larger fish have larger scale. So the scales continually grow and it is temperature dependent. Temperature dependent. So that's why scales are used for aging the fish. Because the development of the scale, itong pinapakita dito yung circuli, para siyang yung annual ring sa mga kahoy. Okay? Na napo-form siya alternating yung panahon na malamig at saka mainit. Okay? Yan. So yan, ito na pala yung sinasabi ko. Using this scale, we were able to determine age of fish in areas with winter, which shows a greatly reduced growth. Kasi sa mga lugar na very distinct yung difference in temperature, like sa mga temperate countries na meron silang winter at saka merong summer. Sa tropical countries, wala naman na summer. Meron lang tayo wet and dry. Oftentimes, na-associate lang natin na pag mainit, summer. Kasi ang summer period is a season sa lugar na merong 4 na season. Like in temperate countries. Meron na winter, merong autumn, merong summer, merong fall. So yan. But dito sa atin sa Philippines, dalawa lang. We have wet and dry. Pero sa Bicol daw, ngunyan, because of climate change, ang tropical countries daw, 4 naman ang season. Sabi kang teacher ko digdi sa BUTC, si Dr. Nieves, 4 naman na ang season na sa Bicol. Sa Roda mainit, lintian na init, mauran, lintian na uran. So 4 man ang season. Okay? So yan. So, balik tayo. So rings get closer together and form a bond. Ideally, ang scale na tigagamit sa age determination only if it is validated. Validated yung periodicity. Is it really one ring is equivalent to 1 year? Okay? Annuli na tinatawag. Annulus. Okay? Ito. So this one, okay, isang year, another year, another year, and another year. Like this one. Okay? Ginagamit yung scale. Yung tinatawag na annulus, yearly. Okay? So yan. So kung makikita niyo dito sa picture na to, this is a picture of a scale ng diadromous fishes. When we say diadromous, at a certain period of their life cycle, they migrate from freshwater to marine or from marine papunta sa freshwater. Ito yung mga catadromous and anadromous. They are collectively known as diadromous fishes. Yung may dalawang distinct environmental condition during their growth. Okay? Yan. And this one. Okay? So makikita nyo yung period ng